Chronic fatigue syndrome is one of the most commonly challenged claims by a disability insurance company whenever you're seeking short-term or long-term disability insurance benefits. Steve, we've probably handled a couple hundred claims with people who have chronic fatigue syndrome, and it's one of those diagnoses that definitely it's a real condition and a very difficult condition for people to have, but why is it that the disability insurance companies love to challenge the claims with chronic fatigue syndrome?
Well, I think the biggest thing is in a lot of ways it's one of those conditions that can be subjective in nature. There's no formal diagnostic test to prove or disprove the presence of it. A lot of times it can be symptoms of a symptom of another condition. So since there's no real way to pinpoint accurately diagnose it, they fight them. And I think that's more evident in the fact that you see more and more policies are written to limit it to a matter of like 2 years or along those lines, just because you have such a problem of either trying to disprove that the claimant has it or on the vice versa to prove that you do have it.
Yeah, I mean the sad thing about the people who get chronic fatigue syndrome is that when I review these medical records, I see that they've been through like every medical test there is under the sun, from blood work to MRI scans to CT scans to brain scans to rule out MS, to rule out all kinds of different brain disorders. And then, it usually comes secondary to someone who gets sick first. They get the flu or they get some kind of virus, or they want to see if they have some kind of hormonal imbalance. And at the end of the day, the doctor says, look, I did everything and I'm not seeing that much in the testing that should show why you're feeling this way. And the diagnosis I'm going to give you is chronic fatigue syndrome because you're one of the millions of people every year that has this condition. And that the doctor clearly has identified what's wrong with the person. The difficulty becomes is when the insurance company goes out and tries to hire another doctor who says, look, there's no objective evidence of their condition. Well, of course there's not.
Because there's no test to objectively show it. And I think the problem becomes too is why they've done all the tests and they've ruled out everything. The insurance carriers then make it look like it's psychosomatic, it's purely mental, it's all in your head, so they try to lump it into, well, it's depression. If the policy doesn't contain a limitation, they say, well, the only thing it could be causing is depression because if the psychologist or psychiatrist notes not sleeping well, things along those lines, and then they try to limit it that way as well. So it is very frustrating.
Right, because a lot of the symptoms are similar to a person who has severe depression, when they feel tired, when they feel absolutely exhausted, can't do anything. And the thing about chronic fatigue, which is really bad for the people who have it, is that resting doesn't make you feel better. No. It's the activity. So when they say, oh, well, go back and work or go out and do stuff, the more activity a person does with chronic fatigue syndrome, the more tired they feel, the more pain they get in a different part of their body. So it's a horrible condition and very difficult for people to deal with. But it's one that the disability insurance companies can really take advantage of a person because they throw that typical, there's no objective evidence. And I bet of all the people who are going to be watching this video and call us, they're going to say, yeah, I got a letter from the carrier and said they're not paying me because there's no objective evidence. And when they do that, I think that's just a straight out fraud on the person because they know that condition doesn't have evidence of objective evidence for chronic fatigue syndrome. So what I recommend for people who are who have these short-term and long-term disability claims for chronic fatigue is that you have to be prepared to deal with the disability insurance company. You have to work with your doctor to document your symptoms. You have to keep your own journal of documenting your symptoms, and you really have to be able to prove your symptoms because you're not going to have any physical medicine other than maybe a viral blood test or something like that you had, which may show some other virus. So you have to really do a lot of things that we often do with our clients to be able to prove to the insurance company that you can't do your job. Yeah. So if you have a claim for chronic fatigue syndrome, feel free to call us at any stage of your claim. We'll review your policy and let you know right away whether or not we think we'll be able to help you with your claim.